Hello, everybody. It's me, boy Cryptid. We are back at it again with another Glaive Keo video. So this video is talking about the truth about every Genshin Killer game. And let's be real, flat out, the only game that can kill Genshin is Genshin itself. Uh, you know, people say it'll be too big to fail. Honestly, I think they're in the process of failing currently, but that's just my opinion. Now, everybody puts the title of Genshin Killer, or Will It Overtake Genshin, or something like that. The person who mainly coins this is obviously going to be Tectown. He is the main antagonist of any Hoyo or Genshin related game, uh, Hoyo or Gacha related game. That's the word I was looking for. Now, he does it to generate buzz, to generate clicks, uh, whether you are clicking on it to hate on him, saying, oh, Genshin will never die, nothing can overtake Genshin, it is the best game no matter what you say. Or if you're interested in see what this new game could be. But like I said, Genshin's the only person or only game that can end Genshin. Everything else, I don't feel like they're striving to even beat Genshin. They're just striving to put their name out there. And it helps them more and more when creators are trying to clickbait. It's honestly an endless cycle. But let's see what he has to say, what Glaive has to say about the truth about every Genshin Killer game. All right, let's get into it.
Have you ever thought to yourself, why is it that every single time a new gacha game comes out, people immediately call it the Genshin Killer? And why does it send people into an absolute meltdown? Seriously, you would think that someone just insulted their mother. In reality, they're just probably watching a Glaive Keo video. The second a new gacha game gets the Genshin Killer label, the usual suspects come crawling out of the woodwork. Twitter threads, unhinged YouTube rants, Reddit.
The moment you insult Genshin, you will get plagued with like an Egyptian curse of Redditors getting up your ass, no matter how big or small you are. I'm a small creator. Believe it or not, I am a small creator, only got about 63 subscribers, but anytime I mention anything bad about Genshin, even I, the mere peasant that I am, get attacked in the comments. It's really quite impressive. Uh, and I like it. Is it bad that I like it? I like it. I like the attention. Obviously, I'm a YouTube creator. Granted, I'm starting out, but I love the attention. That's what every creator loves is attention. And I personally, it makes me a little bit happier when somebody gets mad at me, because it just means I made their day just a little bit worse. And you know what? I can live happy knowing that I've done that. But enough about me. Let's continue the video.
Essays longer than a Google Doc of a smelly rap. The complaints? It is just clickbait. No game will ever kill my Genshin Impact. Stop comparing them. Just enjoy both. As if the entire
No one
gaming
will
industry
defeat
isn't
my
built on
favorite
competition.
game.
But here's the reality. As much as people pretend to hate the term, they can't stop talking about it. The outrage, the debates, the thousands of reaction videos, that is exactly why it works. The people who pretend to be above it can't help themselves. Like, I'm so tired of this drama. Proceeds to watch every single 20-minute video talking about it. Like, buddy, you are the drama. But here's the thing.
They just do nothing but feed the creators. Feed us. Whether you love us or hate us, we will be happy just to get a click on our video. It's really the endless cycle of them trying to shut down every person creating drama about Genshin or Hoyoverse, when in reality, you're just fueling the fire. Instead of trying to stomp us out, you're just pouring gasoline all over the place. Because the second someone like me sees 2,000 views on one of their videos, of course, I'm going to try and copy that kind of formula. I'm going to try and repeat it as much as possible. I want the views. Why would I be like, oh, these people had some negative comments, but I had 2,000 plus views on this video when I normally get like 200? Of course I'm going to keep doing that. Are you insane?
so-called annoying label isn't just marketing gimmick, it actually forces the genre to improve. When a new game gets slapped with a Genshin Killer title, it is thrown into a high-stakes battle it never even signed up for. No trial period, no warm-up, just straight into the deep end. And suddenly, the expectations are sky high. If we're
Death
talking about a
battles.
regular gacha game, it can probably get away with just being okay. A Genshin Killer, it has to prove itself at a very high level. It's not enough to just have pretty waifus and flashy combat. At this point, almost every gacha game has that. It has to do better. Whether that's fairer monetization, deeper gameplay, or an actual endgame that isn't just collecting primo gems like Johnny Somali collecting jail time. And guess what? That pressure works. Because now, new gacha games can't just copy-paste the same formula and expect people to eat it up. They have
To be fair, if you just copy paste everything and you're just like, this will be good enough, you gotta at least add a little bit of spice to your game. You can't expect it to have the same exact qualities of an already established game and be like, well, no, we have slightly different characters, but the same gameplay loop. They'll go for us. It's like DLC almost for this game. No, they're not going to care. They already have FOMO built into the current game. You need to have something to be able to bring people in. Of course, whether you're labeled as a Genshin Killer game or not, uh, I would rather have that kind of pressure to be the best that there is. If I got labeled that game, I wouldn't want to be some no-name game. I would want as much pressure as possible so we could exceed as much as possible.
Have to innovate or get laughed off the stage like how they did to Tower of Fantasy. Meanwhile, the top dogs like, I don't know, a certain multi-billion-dollar game actually have to try instead of coasting on fan loyalty. You think Genshin suddenly introducing a new endgame mode was just coincidence? The 5-star selector, the weapon banner tweak? No! That is what happens when a
They're feeling the pressure.
new game enters the ring and people start asking questions. Calling something a big gacha game killer isn't about predicting a game's demise. It is about making sure no one gets too comfortable. And if your favorite game needs to be protected from competition, maybe it's not as untouchable as you think. Now let's not pretend that the Genshin Killer label just appeared out of thin air. Tectone practically invented it. And if you spend any time in the gacha community, you've seen Tectone sling that term around like it's a hawk to a coin rug pull scam. Love him or hate him, the guy has a knack for riling people up and keeping the chatter alive. Every time a new gacha drops, you can bet he's already got a video up asking if it's the one. And whether you agree to his takes or think he's just farming engagement, you can't deny that he shaped the people talk about these games. What he's really doing isn't just stirring the pot, it's keeping the conversation alive. By throwing bold claims into the mix, he forces people to actually look at these games, compare them, and figure out what.
Which I will say that is a good thing about this is because he highlights so many different games and he's such a big creator, it really helps games at least put their name out there a little bit if they have something unique and interesting about them. Because most games, let's be real, they don't have a lot of advertising that they do, or they have really bad advertising. Like they'll put their money in a completely different area than when they should. But thanks to Tectone and other creators, and he has like a little spider web of creators. He'll show something, then a bunch of other people will show the same thing because they'll try it because he said something about it. It becomes a domino effect. And it really makes up for the bad marketing that some of the newer games or lesser known studios, it makes up for them not marketing as well. So it's a good and bad thing. It helps games at least attempt to compete with other games. So, take that as you will, but I think it's ultimately a good thing that he highlights so many different games. Now, how he does it, by calling them all Genshin Killers, it might be good, it might be bad, depending on how you think of it, whether it puts that much pressure on them or not. Who knows, but at least puts their name out there and it generates some sort of fan base for them.
What works and what doesn't. It's not about predicting Genshin's downfall, it's about making sure that new releases don't get ignored. Some might call it pure clickbait, but in today's digital age, that is just smart content creation. Tectone's dramatic takes might seem excessive, but without them, half of these games wouldn't even make it into people's radar. So here's the tip.
Exactly what I just said. They have terrible marketing because they don't know how to market, or they don't have the funding to market and make a good game. So thanks to creators that are around Tectone's sphere of influence, it really gets pushed out.
tone, provoking controversy, driving conversation, and ensuring that every new release is at least given a fair shot in the arena. You know what else thrives on competition? Content creation. Unlike billion-dollar game studios, independent creators like me rely on actual community support. If you are enjoying this video and want to see more deep dives, hot takes, or just me ranting about gacha nonsense, consider joining the channel membership. Members get exclusive videos, behind-the-scenes content, and probably some bonus rants that definitely wouldn't make it into a normal upload. And if you want to go the extra mile, you can support the channel through my Streamlabs link in the description. Because keeping up with the gacha news is not keeping up with the Kardashians. It's a full-time job. And unfortunately, Boyoverse is not cutting me a sponsorship. Huge thanks to everyone who's already supporting. It really does make a difference. Now, speaking of things that keep this genre alive, let's get back to why competition is the best thing that could happen to gacha. People love to act like comparing games is some kind of a war crime. Stop pitting games against each other. Like, okay, but how else are we supposed to figure out which ones are actually worth playing? Comparisons.
People who say don't compare games are afraid that their game is not going to measure up. Of course, compare whatever game you want. The whole point of things not being a monopoly is to compare and pick the better one. Now, everybody's better one is very arbitrary and very specific to the different people you talk to, of course. There's no absolute better one, but having no competition just breeds mediocrity. Because if you have no one to compete with, you're not going to try and make your game better. So of course we want competition. Of course we want to compare. That's the whole point of them being different companies to make different games. You saying, I don't want you to compare, or things aren't meant to be compared like that, are just you being afraid that someone will think your game is not the best, or you're afraid of them eventually convincing you or making you realize that your game is not the best, or might even be terrible.
Aren't just for drama. Although, let's be honest, they do fuel some absolutely hilarious Mr. Pokey tweets. They are how players articulate what works and what doesn't. When someone says, this game is a Genshin killer, what they're really saying is, hey, this one does something better. Maybe it has a fairer gacha system, more rewarding content, or wild concept, an actual reason to...
Or actual content. You don't even have to say more rewarding. Actual content.
Log in beyond daily chores. And yes, and if you're wondering, yes, these debates can get messy. Reddit threads turn into a digital war zone. Discord servers implode. And suddenly, you see your favorite streamer Saint Tontus ranting about a Vars 2 video and getting into a 1v9 in a gacha cast.
The only reason he wins debates, or even everybody's too nice to let him quit talking, or to barge in and stop him from talking. He just yaps for days, and nobody has the thought process to jump in and be like, "Hey, you're saying some stupid shit. I'm gonna talk now." But they just let him talk forever, and the more you talk, the more you win. That's just how the internet works. I mean, just look at it. Just look at that. He is yapping about probably nothing that matters, and everybody's just sitting there just letting him do it.
But that chaos, that's how the genre evolves. If no one ever questioned the status quo, we would still be playing gacha games with 0.3% SSR rates, and content droughts that make Sumeru deserts from Genshin look like a tropical paradise. Every time people argue over whether a game is a killer, they're actually holding developers accountable. And if that makes some fanboys uncomfortable, well, maybe their favorite game should try a little bit harder. Look, whether you love or hate the Genshin Killer label, you can't deny one thing: it gets people talking. In an industry where attention is currency, that is everything. And let's be real, most gacha games launch and disappear faster than LOL Shinya promising daily Twitch streams. Without a strong marketing hook, they don't even get the chance to prove themselves before they're buried under whatever Hoyoverse is doing next. Calling something a big game killer forces people to pay attention. Even if they're just there to market, that is still engagement. And guess what? That engagement translates into actual players. People might check out a game just to see if it lines up with the hype, and before they know it, they're 40 polls deep into a banner, convincing themselves they totally don't have an addiction to gacha. Sure, the label is is overhyped, but that's the point. If a game launches with zero discussion, it's already dead in the water. If calling it a Genshin Killer gets it on people's radar, then guess what? It just won. And you would think the term Genshin Killer was some kind of a personal attack, with how some people react to it. Newsflash, competition isn't a death sentence, it's a wake-up call.
Yeah, I mean, in reality, you should want your game to be able to compete with the other games, right? You should want it to be, oh, my game's strong enough. It has good content. We don't have any content droughts. Good characters. It's fun to play. It's rewarding. If you don't think your game has any of those things, maybe you need to reconsider what game you play and why you feel so scared that there's other games coming around that could be competition for your game. I don't know. Maybe it's something that you need to think about.
The second a new game starts gaining traction under this label, it puts pressure on everyone. Not just the new devs trying to prove themselves, but also the reigning champs who suddenly realize they can't afford to slack off. And that includes Genshin. Because when another game starts doing something better, Hoyoverse actually has to respond. Even if the so-called killer doesn't live up to the hype, it still raises the bar. Maybe it introduces a better pity system, a more rewarding endgame, or heaven forbid, a battle pass that isn't just a glorified chore list. And once players see that, they start demanding more from every game they play. The gacha industry thrives on engagement, and engagement thrives
when the players aren't treated like shit, they actually like it. Breaking news.
on competition. Without it, we would still be stuck
Treated
in an
like
era
humans.
where devs get away with laziness because who else are you gonna play? Every game that enters the ring, whether it wins or not, pushes the whole genre forward. And if Genshin fans were really so confident that nothing could top their favorite game, they wouldn't be so scared of the conversation in the first place. It doesn't matter if a game actually kills anything. What matters is that people care enough to argue about it. And in an industry built on FOMO and constant engagement, that is everything. People don't realize just how much outrage-fueled marketing works. You see a new game getting called a Genshin Killer, and suddenly EO makes a new tweet. YouTubers are making reaction videos on it, and streamers who swore they would never touch another gacha game are booting up just to roast it. And then a week later, some of them are hooked to it. Even if a game flops, the fact that it dominated the conversation for even a second means that it did something right. Hype alone can't sustain a bad game, but it can give a good game the visibility it needs to survive in a crowded market. If nobody is talking about a game, it might as well not exist. So yeah, the Genshin Killer label is overused, but do you know what's worse? Irrelevance. At the end of the day, the real question isn't whether a game can actually kill Genshin, it is whether it can force the genre to evolve. And every time a new game gets that label, that is exactly what happens. It pushes developers to be better, it forces them to innovate instead of just recycling the same formulas. It puts pressure into existing games just to keep up instead of coasting on their success. And it makes sure players aren't just accepting whatever is thrown at them, but actively demanding more. So yeah, the term Genshin Killer is overused, exaggerated, and sometimes flat out ridiculous.
I feel like the term Genshin Killer is good. Like I said, I've said it a couple times during this video already. Helps get their name out. As step one, it covers the marketing mishaps or missteps that the company could possibly make. Number two, it puts a sort of degree of pressure on Genshin. Like when Wuthering Waves come out. Yeah, it was labeled a Genshin Killer. Of course it was. It is has the same premise, except with more advanced combat and a more adult, rugged, post-apocalyptic-esque kind of vibe instead of a very childlike, happy-go-lucky vibe that Genshin has. And honestly, I feel like it put a lot of pressure on Genshin to make better decisions and to try and do better. Now, we haven't really seen any fruit of that, really, but I feel like it's on its way, especially with every new game that gets labeled a Genshin Killer and gets compared directly to Genshin. I mean, when you're at the top, everybody's going to be punching up at you. It's just a fact. And eventually, somebody's going to win. But, let me know about your thoughts down below. Honestly, I am really interested in what people think about this. So don't be afraid to leave a comment. And don't be afraid to like and subscribe. I truly appreciate it. Go like and subscribe to Clave Keo too. This was a fantastic video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.